and blessing, unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity.
Good morning, self-lovers. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. We are live tuning in Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So grateful for your presence, your love, your connection weekly. And thank you for those that tune in. So grateful. And if you're new here, we just want to let you know that there is a YouTube channel. We would love for your support there. Please go plug in, like, share, and subscribe because there's amazing shows and such sacred gems of love, because the umbrella of love, self-love, comes in this wide topic, and there's lots of ways that we all are seeking healing and upgrade to our beingness, right? So that we can be more of our fullness and authentic self-expression. So that's what we've come here to be and do in the awakening of this time and planet on the Earth School. And this show is supporting you in that. So without further ado, we have an amazing guest. I'm going to introduce him. And today's a special day. So grateful. I'm going to just read a little bit of his bio here. So Gordon Xavier will be sharing some principles and practices revolving around conscious creativity, and we'll be zooming in on communication, right? How important is that? Bringing awareness to what communication is and why it is important is his intentions. He specifically will be diving into the art of deep listening. With 10 years experience in the space of personal development and metaphysics, Gordon has dedicated his life to helping people cultivate a sense of clarity, confidence, and creativity by walking the path of a conscious communicator. Yes. Having amassed close to 30,000 subscribers and 2 million channel views on YouTube, his content has helped thousands of people to transform their lives and initiate powerful spiritual awakenings and healing. So without further ado, welcome, Gordon. We are so grateful for you to be here.
No, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
again, I warned everyone that it was some random, and while we were reading his bio, I was like, oh, there's this whole idea that I don't know about you too, but my feed on all of my social media is literally drowning in this masculine feminine dynamics, or the dominant submissive dynamics, and how people should be and how people should behave in relationship. I don't exactly see it that way. I don't think that, I mean, we can get into my theory later, but I don't see it exactly that way. I do see it based in communication, in listening, in attunement, in understanding, asking questions to understand maybe what Dawn's experience is, and empathy. So I'm curious if your feed is like splattered with all of that jazz, and what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah, absolutely. I see lots of conversations, that are charged and alive, in relation to masculine, feminine polarities, and how do we navigate, in these, primarily masculine bodies or primarily feminine bodies. How do we dance and navigate and create win-win situations to where everybody feels like, they're on purpose and respected and loved and cared for. And I agree. It's a communication thing. I feel like a lot of, like, 99% of the dissonance that we experience in society is a communication issue, right? Simply put, somebody's talking too much, or somebody's not listening enough, right? Somebody's not speaking up, right? And someone's, a lot of people are challenged to hold emotionally charged topics or words, thoughts, perspectives, right? And so it's this game of, yeah, how do we hold space for the ways in which these energies want to move, right? Because there's, I look at masculine energy and feminine energy as uh, the ways in which the divine moves, right? That's just the way in which God manifests in this realm, right? In this physical realm, and um, you masculine energy without feminine energy can be destructive, right? It can be very narrow-minded and can miss out on uh, yeah, like the information that comes from the intuition, right? And then feminine energy without masculine energy is kind of just everywhere, right? It's very it doesn't have that structure or direction. So it's kind of like cup and water, right? You have cup water, you fill it up and then it works, right? And so it's just a matter of getting these two energies, right, to communicate efficiently, consciously, so
Mm.
that we can, end up where we want to end up. Right. But
Great. And
there's a whole much more to say with it,
Oh,
but that's the
I'm like,
gist.
oh, beautiful. Oh,
Mm. Mhm.
communication is so.
Like that.
Um, for all of our listeners, I was just waving my hands, like fanning myself and fanning the two other people in the quote unquote virtual room here. I think that communication is very, very sexy. Empathy is very
Oh, it's the
sexy.
sexiest.
Vulnerability is sexy. Like when you stop. Okay, when I stop, I'm just gonna use my when I stop
Yeah.
playing into the power dynamic that's kind of like the larger narrative that we've been playing into for a long time. When I stop playing into those roles or into those needs for power play in relationship, what I find
Mhm.
happens is that I lean in more, and it's more about
Mm,
I call it creating reality, co-creating
mm,
reality. Let's negotiate reality, and it becomes I'm more curious about what Dawn's
mm,
experience is, or what Gordon's experience is, or what I'm more curious about how my beingness, I call it my ness,
mhm,
my beingness
mhm,
is impacting another person. And the only way to
mm,
do that is A, knowing oneself, and B, actually being curious about another person.
mm,
I
mm.
have something coming in the room who's crawling on the floor right now.
I'm about to say, what is that? A ghost? What's going on
you
over?
you said such a powerful, like,
Uh-uh.
twice you said the magic word, and I'm just gonna reiterate what you said. Curiosity, right? Leading with
Mhm,
curiosity is such a great tool in communication because
absolutely.
when we're open in our consciousness with curiosity, we're not going to hear through a filter or a lens of
Right.
that's closed, right? Because we're
Mhm,
curious. We're curious about all of us, all of our own expression and feelings, plus everyone else involved in the conversation also, which means
mhm,
it creates a pathway of clear connection, communication, willingness to
mhm,
negotiate that reality. I find when curiosity is present,
mhm.
it really opens the gateway to so much more expanded connection.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the self-love show, right? And so, I've heard once that you can replace love with understanding. And it's like fully diving into the understanding of another, right? And that is uh yeah, demonstration of love. It's they go hand in hand. When I think of someone who loves me, I think of someone who gets me, who understands me,
Mhm.
right? And so with that curiosity, it just positions your consciousness to understand,
Mm,
right? Like, and
beautiful.
without that curiosity, uh, then yeah, like you said, you'll have to navigate through filters and other interpretations and assumptions and judgments before you can arrive into that receptive place to understand, right?
Mhm.
That's
And
huge. It's huge.
that's what I get really like worked up about, these like women should submit, and they need to submit in this way, or surrender,
Mm,
or whatever, or
mm,
men should be dominant, or and they have to do it this way. And I'm often like looking at the spiritual and sexual scenes like, huh, this is a really interesting way of trying to build love and trying to cultivate communication or cultivate relationship. It's like an archaic version in my brain. I'm like, oh, okay, that's if that's what the relationship that you want. For me, my definition of love is the radical acceptance of what is. So can I show up in the moment to radically accept and love what is happening? Now, I don't have to be like, oh my God, I love it. I don't think that love is that limerent or obsessive, like wild version of dopamine and epinephrine. I don't subscribe to that kind of love. That feeling, that chemistry, because love is messy. I don't know. I mean, you're married, right? And you both are married. So like having these moments, you're going to be like with your people sometimes. And then it's still choosing that. So it's the idea for me of love is, and radically accepting what is and showing up in that space is like, oh, can I stay in compassion and love and empathy and curiosity right now, even with myself and with the other person's one or more, you know, and really lean into that without forcing them into like the like without forcing Dawn into the lady box or the wife box or the mom box or forcing her into a role or forcing myself into a role or forcing you into a role. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I look at love as a skill. It's a skill, you know, it's not just a vibration. I think it's definitely a state of consciousness, but it's a skill. It's a choice. I think I would be far less able to circulate love in my relationships without specific skills in my life, and those skills help us navigate and come to just reality, right? Like we can't create anything in a relationship if we're both living an illusion, right? And so how do we get to reality? How do we get our feet on the ground together? How do we get on the same page? And with this masculine feminine polarity, it's like, you know, what's authentic for everyone, you know, for individuals. For some relationships, like I've been in relationships where the woman would love to submit to me, loves to be in a surrender state and be yielding, soft, feminine, open, receptive, right? And happily receives my masculine penetration, if you will, right? And versus some other relationships, it's not like that, right? And so it's I think it's a matter of having the skill set to be able to see that reality and navigate in that, and then just choose, like, is this what I want? Okay, cool. No. Is this what I want? Yes. Okay, cool. Right. But it's not necessary to, I think, lump every human being in a box, because we're all distinct creatures. You know, we all have our distinctions, and if we're going to create a win-win, I mean, there's a lot of people on the planet, you know, and so, you know, if we're going to create some type of synergy globally in the global community, then it takes an honoring of those distinctions, right, and knowing how to communicate and stay in your center in the face of those differences.
Yes,
right? That's when we start winning.
The two foundational principles in spiritual psychology are seeing the loving essence and hearing with the ear of your heart, hearing the loving essence. Because the truth is, we're all sharing in love, loving essence. We're one spiritual big connection. You know, our soul, we're all sharing in the oneness. So what peels away that place of perceived separation, right, is when someone is showing up maybe in a positionality inside the consciousness, which is possibly their egoic crystallized structure that is an outdated version of self, maybe rooted in identities or misidentifications from way long ago, and they're needing to break out of that, but they can show up in a strong position, and that's what creates that sense of separation. And so when we
Mhm.
really show up in a conversation that might be a harder conversation where we feel not connected, it's so good to lean in and practice. Just practice seeing the loving essence in that person. Practice
Mm.
hearing from the heart, hearing
Mm.
what they're saying from the heart. And these two skills coupled together really open the way to really healing some of the most difficult relationships. Like, it's
Mhm.
important to bring forward and work with the medicine of who is the most difficult relationship of your life. Who is
Mm.
that person? For me, it was my father.
Mm.
And so I had to work with that medicine of like bringing forward the crunchiest, most difficult times in my life and to really heal those places inside myself, to upgrade my communication, to upgrade my
Mm.
communication with the other sex, because it mattered to me to better my relationship with my husband and my son. And in order to
Mm.
do so, I had to go back in the past and heal the places that were deeply traumatic, which was really with my father, my core karmic relationship that I came into this life
Mhm.
to heal. And so we all, as humans, humaning on the earth together, are leveraging this life for our awakening. And so we do that through our spiritual curriculum. We all are souls embodied here in human skins. And this is Earth School. We're here to learn and grow through the dynamic relationships we have with every person. And that includes the best relationships you have of your life and the more complicated ones, and all
Mhm.
the myriad mirrors of the ones in between, right? Because we're all
Mhm.
reflections of self.
Mhm.
So that is so powerful, right? What I just said, we're all reflections
Mhm.
of self. So we're getting to see
Mhm.
aspects of ourself through others and come home to
Mhm.
places that might have been a rejected sense of self or not accepted sense of self. And how do we do that? We do that through love and communication and a willingness to meet them where they are,
Mhm.
regardless of what it is. And we do that
Mhm.
through seeing the loving essence and heart-centered listening.
Yeah.
Isn't that profound?
Let's snap into that. Come on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah, and to, in addition to that, yeah, I made this video a while back, talking about living in community, right? Because I live in Hawaii. I live in a intentional community, so about 10 or 11 regular people on this plot of land, and sometimes there's difficult individuals, right, who are just like get caught up in maybe patterns of frustration or whatever it is, and I had to at some point, for the sake of my own sanity, begin to intentionally choose to see the inner child inside
Mhm.
of these people, right? Because at the end of the day, those we're still those beings,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of those patterns get crystallized when we're kids, and uh, you know, I've, yeah, I look at us as multi-dimensional beings, and a lot
Yes,
of the time,
yes.
what's happening when people are lashing out is it's still unprocessed things from uh, from back then, right? And it's that inner child. So it's like looking at everyone through the eyes of compassion, the same way you would a child. Like a child's just here trying to figure things out, and life is it's a lot to figure out and to be present with, right? And so having that same kind of willingness to be slow and patient and compassionate with whoever it is, and if I don't have the resources to do that, okay, like acknowledge that, and just give a silent bow and back up. But it's choosing to look through a certain lens, and then on top of that, there's this phrase that one of my teachers, Dr. David Wolf, this man is like a master of communications, been doing this kind of work for about 35 years. And um, I've been through a lot of his programs. And one of the core principles that he shared with me in relation to living a conscious life is number one, experience your experience.
Mm.
Experience your experience. Don't avoid your experience or make someone else responsible for your experience, but experience your experience fully. And if all of us had a, a higher level of willingness or even a commitment to experience our own experience. Like just experience it. Don't do anything else. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to go write about it. You don't need to go. You don't need to do. Just experience your experience. Right. If we have a willingness to do that, then it takes a lot of pressure off the people in our relationships. Right. Rather than my dad doing something and I need him to change. I need him to change. I need him to apologize. How about instead I just acknowledge, I'm angry and I'm hurt and I'm sad. I'm gonna breathe into that and I'm
Mhm.
just gonna experience that until the energy settles,
Mhm.
right? And that alone, man, is a game changer.
Yes.
Simplifies everything, right? And I think that goes hand in hand with all of these what you were saying, with relationship and all the work, the dharmic karmic work that comes in reflecting in these relationships.
Mhm.
I'm committed to this idea that I've been playing with for the last couple years is that um, every thought and action and behavior that human beings do is a strategy to get a need met.
Mhm.
Mhm,
And because I had this debate with someone who wanted to nitpick the word strategy the other day, I'm just going to
mhm,
clarify that it's regardless of whether it's a conscious strategy created or an unconscious strategy, it's the body and the brain's strategy. It's the soul strategy to get a need met that generally is created in early childhood. So
Mhm.
some of
mhm,
us grew up in really loving, some, many of us did not
mhm,
grow up in loving, supportive, encouraging households, especially living
mhm,
in this kind of distorted societies globally that we live in.
Mhm.
mhm,
Um, and to come from this place of actually experiencing your experience takes the level of self-reflection of actually
mhm,
being able to hold the capacity to be with those feelings. So most of my practice is helping people get to that point is like, how can I
mhm,
be embodied enough to experience and hold and build the capacity to be with the feelings and sensations that are happening in our bodies
Mhm.
when we've been taught or maybe even like literally it's been beaten out of us to
Mhm.
feel, to
mhm,
experience. And in that sense of like, oh my gosh, I feel grief or I feel overjoyed or I
mhm,
feel scared, and to be able to actively communicate that is
mhm,
it's like a huge practice.
Mhm.
Some people, I'll invite to a sensation game the last 2 weeks, have a really difficult time just be, or did I freeze? Oh,
You're here.
the sensation game is to what happened, what physical sensation is going on in my body, and then
mhm,
what emotion is happening. So the difference between. So it's actually embodying the feelings so that you can start to somatically connect what thoughts are being driven
mhm,
by, which also gives you an
mhm,
opportunity to look at what your wants, needs, and values are. So
mhm,
if I can say, Gordon, my chest is tight and my rib cage is tight and I feel a gripping in my solar plexus and
mhm,
I'm scared and I'm angry.
mhm,
Your body is literally attuning to my language right now.
mhm,
Right.
mhm.
I'm not actually feeling that way. I just want to,
Right.
but your
Mhm,
body and your mind is actually attuning to that. And then when I say, I was scared because this thing, which probably maybe you stimulated something that I experienced in my
mhm,
past as a child or whatever.
mhm,
Then you have the opportunity to either ask questions get curious,
Mhm.
or manage your proximity to my reaction, right?
Mhm.
And I think that this place is so helpful when you're looking at another person, when you're looking at a
Yeah.
person who's another, another mirror of you. It's like, oh, this person's strategy to get their needs met through anger or frustration or yelling or throwing stuff isn't something that I can participate in. And I need to like back off. Or if it's like, oh, they want to get, I can lean into really understanding what they need right now. What's
Mm.
like their strategy for connection isn't my strategy, but can I lean in? Um,
Mhm.
yeah, the piece, can we talk about a little bit more about the piece about learning oneself in communication? Because even though what I also find in some nonviolent communication spaces is that it becomes sort of a manipulation tool, and
Mhm.
that it can, um, and that it like knowing one's agenda through communication. Can we talk about that?
Mhm.
Random.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think so rephrase that last part again. You said, yeah, what you just ended with. Yeah, rephrase the question for me one more time. Let me hear
Okay.
it again.
Um, I'll just generalize the question for both of you so that
Uh-huh.
is there talk to me about or just banter away about how maybe one could develop some inner awareness skills to be a better
Mhm.
communicator, like to look at their own maybe
Mhm.
strategies to get their needs
Mhm.
met or agenda to get their needs
Mhm.
met, and how like to be more communicative about my agenda, like, oh, I'm going to ask
Mhm.
about going to dinner because I'm hungry, instead of being like, hey, I'm
Mhm.
hungry, I go to dinner, like,
Yeah,
knowing,
absolutely.
being honest about it, something about that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think there's a yeah, a bunch of different ways, but I personally think the most effective way to really gain that self-awareness as a communicator is container. Putting yourself in a container to receive that feedback, right? Like there's this analogy I'll use with, potential clients who are looking to receive that kind of uh, shift in their life toward like, okay, what about me is causing me to create or manifest these certain outcomes in my relationship? And there's this analogy, say for example, you and I, Trish, we're sitting down and we're eating a couple salads, right? A couple salads, and and we're enjoying these salads, and in the middle of it, I decide to tell you a joke, right? And the joke lands. It's hilarious. We're both cracking up. We're smiling, right? And as we're laughing, you notice there's a piece of spinach in my teeth, right? But I'm just smiling and laughing, right? I'm feeling so good about myself now that we're laughing about the joke. I call the waiter over, right? And I get the waiter to start hearing the joke. And I tell the waiter the joke, but I can't help but notice the waiter's a bit distracted, right? And the waiter's kind of like looking at me weird, right? As I'm smiling and telling the joke. And I get to the punchline and they kind of just like, all right, well, hey, I got other tables, I gotta go. And now I'm sitting here confused. Like, yo, I know the joke is funny. Why did my message not get through? Right? Why did my message not get through? And I'm sitting here racking my brain when there's spinach in my teeth. Right? There's something about me that I'm just not seeing. I can't see, in fact, because I don't have the angle. I can't look at my teeth right now unless I have a reflective device, right? And so in that scenario, when you and I are sitting down, the only way I'm going to get that piece of information revolving around why my message didn't go through is you giving me that feedback, you giving me the reflection. Hey, dude, I'm pretty sure the waiter was distracted by the big piece of spinach in your teeth. And then I go, oh, and now I can change, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing works for communication. I've sat in so many containers but from like I said earlier, Dr. David Wolf, and others, but specifically him, who has a wealth, like just like mountains and an archive of knowledge in relation to functional conscious communication. And so I put myself in these containers to get picked apart, and to see myself, right? Sometimes you need someone who has a particular attuned eye who can like see specific kinds of spinach in the tea, right? That
Mm,
maybe the average person would glance over, right?
mhm.
And so a bunch of different ways to gain self-awareness as a communicator, but the most efficient I found is, yeah, getting a coach. Like, you want to be a good sports player, you want to be good at basketball, okay, get a coach, right? help
Exactly.
let them tell you when your elbow is out of alignment when you're shooting, right? And same thing goes for communication.
Beautiful. I really, really support what you're saying. Is absolutely true. I know I have grown leaps and bounds in my communication style, my deepening of my listening, which is everything in communication, right? And like our whole show is based on listening, and that was one of the opening things you were bringing forward was listening. And so I can honestly say putting myself in a container has exponentially created exponential growth in my communication
Mhm,
style, my language, it has upgraded every relationship I have from
mhm,
personal, my most important relationship with my husband, and then rippled out in every fashion, my child, my husband, and then
mhm,
work relationships. I mean, everything, because the outer proceeds from the inner.
mhm,
So the inner is what creates the outer in our life. And it's the unresolved emotional material, which is our curriculum, that comes forward through our relationships and the lens of relationship. And so it's an opportunity to deepen in that and get to hold in it where we're not rejecting it, not accepting it. We're really meeting it with openness so that we can dissolve and complete it so that we don't have to show up and recreate these relationships that aren't serving us anymore,
mhm,
or
mhm,
really a reflection of the past or a
mhm,
younger part of ourself, our younger years being recreated through our now relationships. And when we do the inner work through having a coach, then that's the work I do is help people untangle from very challenging things, really deep intergenerational trauma pattern work, really at the core of it. And it can really change one's life exponentially because you no longer are struggling against these unresolved parts. And guess what? When you lay that down for good, everything in your life changes. When you're wanting to radically change your life, start doing radical inner work.
mhm. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think of when I first started on this path of doing my inner work, there's this phrase that came to me, and it goes, whatever you conceal takes the wheel.
Haha, so true. Oh my God.
Uh-huh. And whatever you reveal and feel, you heal.
Gorgeous.
Uh, and it makes me think of, yeah, there's this quote by Carl Jung where he says, um, until we make the unconscious
Conscious.
conscious,
Mhm.
it'll run our life and
It
we'll
does.
call it fate.
Mhm.
And when I first said that, I was like, damn, I was just like, whoa,
Mind blowing, right?
mind blowing, right? And it's so true, and so like a lot of us, we have these experiences in life that we don't want to look at, or finish experiencing. And so what happened is it's unprocessed, or maybe it's a secret, maybe it's a truth that you have in a relationship, and you'll conceal it. And then next thing you know, that thing begins to grow in the underworld, and it grows a little hand and takes the wheel
Mm.
to actions and to thoughts and to feelings. And yeah, and next thing you know, we're replicating relationships or patterns in relationships. And then we're like scratching our head like, how does this keep happening to me?
Mhm.
you know
Yeah,
and
unconscious patterns. They keep playing out, and actually, the dynamic, the family secrets is a very powerful thing to investigate in your
Mm,
family genealogram, to do actually
mm,
explore your family genealogram and explore the actual patterns that go on of your
mhm,
roots and what happened. And it is a
mhm,
known fact in psychology that one child out of the family unit of the nucleus, the nuclear unit, will act out unconsciously the family secret, unbeknowing.
mm.
They won't even know it,
Wow.
but it's that profound and known in psychology when you really explore this, that one child, when happened to be that child in my family unit, I was the one to act
Mm,
out the family secret, not knowing it.
mm,
Later, when I really dove into healing my curriculum deeply through graduate school, I became very aware that it was like, "Oh my god, these are all my father's secrets."
mm,
Then it all became into the light, and I didn't have to act those ways, behave those ways, be that role, play that role any longer, because it's healed in the family dynamic,
mm.
intergenerationally. Profound,
Whoa.
profound, life-changing,
Oof.
full karmic history of the ancestors before me, and life-changing for
Mhm.
those that come after me, which they won't have
Yeah.
to play out those dynamics, which gives them,
Mm,
freedom in their
mm,
consciousness to be more of who they embodied to be,
mm, mhm.
which
Whew.
matters on this planet,
Mm,
matters to leave a
mhm,
legacy, to give an opportunity for better, cleaner everything for every person participating here on the earth, right?
mhm,
It all matters. Every bit of inner
mhm,
work we each do matters,
mhm,
matters. It's so important. And it takes a village. We all need to
yeah.
be doing the inner work to better ourselves, to
Mhm,
better our loving, to better our connection with source spirit, so that we can fully be in the light of who we've come to be. Activating the core essence of who we've come here to be, our spiritual knowing, our entelechy. Because just like my gorgeous teachers, Ron and Mary Holnick, share like this beautiful information around the acorn. That acorn is like it carries the entelechy of the oak tree,
mhm,
right? But that acorn comes here knowing its roadmap. It doesn't have to be given it, it's in it,
mhm,
right? And we are
mhm,
like that acorn. We have the
mhm,
entelechy, the map of our soul, what we've come
mhm,
here to grow through, learn through, embody through, experience, every part of it. And that includes the nuclear family we're born into and the spiritual
mhm,
lessons we're meant to learn. And each family member will seed in our consciousness aspects that will become patterns that we are destined to heal and grow through and learn. And that forms us to become the person we're here to be. Then we have the
mhm,
opportunity to step into being the hero or shero of our own
mhm,
journey and break through
mhm,
all that conditioning to stand in the light of who we are,
mhm,
God's
mhm,
love essence.
mhm.
Isn't that powerful?
Ooh, come on.
That was just like
You,
channel.
bringing it through. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's such a it's such a gift what we inherit. Even when it comes off as not a gift, but going through the process, it's so rich. So rich, so rewarding, and yeah, it's I just over the last couple of months, I went through had a really tough experience. Contracted a disease called rat lungworm out here
Oh,
in on the lands of Hawaii, and it's a long story short, it's a parasite that gets in your body through foods on the land, and they reproduce in the brain, and so my nervous system, central nervous system, I mean, just excruciating pain for 2 months nonstop, right? And I share this because over those 2 months, pain was my guru, right? Like pain was my guru. And I mean, in the morning when I would wake up, all throughout the day, when I go to bed at night, all throughout my sleep, and and it really illuminated to me. It really it gave me no choice but to surrender and receive, like receive the pain.
Mhm.
And in that experience of receiving the pain so deeply, I got to perceive pain as upgrades
Wow.
to my consciousness and to my mindset and to my like a re yeah a recalibration of my value system. and and I, that goes across the board for me now. I look at life, right, and the pain that that we inherit ancestrally, right, and in our present day relationships, if received, such incredible upgrades and gifts are laden within that. and and so that came to mind, as you were sharing uh, just the grand unfoldment, the grand unfolding of our human story, and
Mm.
that's a huge piece that um, I feel like is at the core of it. It's what do we do with pain? What do we do with this the pain that comes up in life, and and so that's a big piece of the work I do is, and I'm sure all of you do, is like guiding people, to not avoid that pain, but to experience the pain fully, and then learn how to communicate in it and through it and
Right.
and with it, right? And
Wow, what a shining example you are, because you would not know this by looking at you. You don't look
mm,
like you just had been through this transformative, deeply transformative experience, I hear. And
mm,
God bless your
mm,
health. Like, I'm just gonna send you extra light for your
yes,
brain and everything going on for your physical wellness. And it sounds like you're overcoming it, is what it sounds like to me.
yeah, oh yeah, my body's doing a lot better now. It was Yeah, it was by far the most excruciating pain I've ever experienced in my life. It's
Holy
like
cow.
worms moving around in my brain,
Oh my
and so like
goddess.
my migraines, and I mean the weirdest pain, weirdest nervous system pain, joints, and the image, and it was just nonstop, and a lot of people don't walk away from it. It can be quite deadly, um, and so, yeah, I just feel so like graced,
Yeah, blessed.
grace, grace, grace.
Miraculous. Is
Uh,
you experienced a miracle in your healing.
yeah, for sure. Like a lot of people, I mean, this was a month ago that my final migraines really stopped, but a lot of people for years experienced nervous system damage, afterwards, and I thought I was going to have it. Like my left arm was really messed up like for weeks afterwards. I couldn't even like open a doorknob with this hand, or open a water bottle.
Oh,
And
goddess.
uh and and just the other day I did for the first time 10 pull-ups. Since then I was
Yay!
like, hey, it's coming back. And so
Mm,
yeah, super graceful. And it
I'm
was upgrades, well, it was upgrades,
I'm so
and so
grateful
mm,
that you've like you found the help that you needed. I've been watching your journey, like and I loved what you said about pain as an upgrade. And one of the things that has really helped me recently is to look at not pain as this negative thing, but pain as a sensation
yeah.
and an experience. So losing my dad this year, I've had a lot of
Mm,
death, sort of like there's grief was a theme or is a theme in my year this year.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it's taught me so much that if I don't judge it as negative, like this idea of pain as being like a negative experience, if I don't play into the good, bad, negative, positive thing, if I don't play the duality, if I just am like, okay, what is here now? And it really does look like an upgrade in that. The things that I aha'd with without that filter of this is a negative experience and I'm trying to get out of it, I was like, okay, I'm going to lean in. I just was like, this is the swimming pool. I'm just going to jump in. And everybody that I've ever met. So I used to date someone who also had severe migraines, and the experiences that he would share, like these psychedelic, profound experiences that he would share after having a migraine. Like sometimes he would be like, I'm like, you're tripping right now, like full on tripping.
Mm.
And that when he would just lean into them instead of fighting it, I found that it's hard to actually nail down some of the lessons, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit.
Mhm.
But it's hard to to nail down some of these really amazing lessons that you get from leaning into and experiencing your experience, right? Coming back into that place that you
Mhm.
shared earlier. It's like, can you hold as much pain as you can pleasure? Like
Mhm.
spectrum of sensation and experience. Can you hold that? And can you be
Mhm.
with it and whatever is happening in the moment? Can you just be there? Pain it teaches you so much. Talk about surrender. Talk about
Yeah.
being acceptance. You know, like
Mhm.
I was laid up in bed with a knee injury, and I thought that I would never be able to hike or dance again for over a month.
Mm.
Move. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't know. And how much of my identity was wrapped up in me being able to hike and dance. And I was like, okay. At a
Yeah.
certain point, I was like, all right, I've got to accept this moment. Like I may never dance again.
Mm.
I remember this.
And I could do this, you know, and I
Mm.
may never be able to do these things. I may need surgery. Like there was just like these conversations, and I was like, okay, can I just be here with it? And luckily, after I accepted it, and after I leaned into it, I found a practitioner that was really, really profound for me. A man named Isaiah Fleischbach, who's just phenomenal. And a 220-pound guy who's 6'8", walked from my hip to my, mashed my muscles to a point where I just cried for 2.5 hours, and it was profound for me. So that lesson of surrender, talk about like surrendering into the moment and being with and letting, not judging the pain, but actually loving it. It's a profound place to be there
Yeah.
rather than run from it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes with the theme that we were talking about. It's like another word for surrender. It's just listening. You know, just listen. The pain is speaking right now, and I'm just gonna listen to it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what it has. I'm gonna listen. You know, because it wants to be heard apparently. And there's gems hidden
Yes.
in that pain. There's information. There's wisdom. There's truth. There's uh, guidance in it, and yeah, just listening to it. I think that's why as collectively we're seeing all these patterns, you know, resurface, and it's just an unwillingness to listen to what hurts, and to not like react to it and go do something about it, but
Yes.
to just digest it, right? Like through listening. And yeah, and I think my nervous system has healed the way it has because of my choice to listen so deeply to the pain when it was present. And I think if I would have resisted it more, I probably would have more nerve damage than I do right now.
Powerful.
And yeah.
Powerful to hear that. That is transformational and so powerful.
Mhm.
I just want to praise and acknowledge you, that your wisdom and the knowing inside to be with the pain. Like you fully dropped into a state of surrender. You surrendered more than you ever, ever, ever have, it sounds like. And that actually created the avenue to truly heal for you. That's powerful.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I really
Sure.
thank you so much for that story and sharing. I know that it is
Yeah.
medicine for someone out there listening or watching. Like, how many of our viewers have had a very traumatic, painful experience in their life that has been hard to deal with, right? We all have as humans. I mean, you know, birthing my son and having to push my son for push for 4 hours straight. Like, normal pushing is usually just a short moment in time and the baby's out. I had to push for 4 hours. That was not including all the laboring that took place before. So that was medicine for me. It taught me so much about the state of what it takes to surrender. You know, that was like a powerful vortex of a learning opportunity, and it was the most craziest pain I've ever experienced inside my body. You know, like all I could do was be with. I couldn't focus on anything except breathe and be with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's your experience is different. It was migraines in your head, and mine was birth portal. But all in all, we're talking excruciating pain, right? And Trish too, that excruciating pain, right? And it can be like a fire. We're being forged in the fire of transformation through that experience.
Yeah, like how you put that forge in the fire. Oof. Childbirth, that's a whole other level of Woo! You know, I thought about childbirth so much actually when
I bet.
I was going through Rattling Worm, because I mean, I'm like, so like this is pain. Like it had me just contemplating pain, and I'm like, well, what other painful experience am I? And I thought about childbirth. I'm like, oh my God, like yeah, it's a whole another mind, body, spirit recalibration through such vulnerable parts being involved in
Oh,
that painful process. Such vulnerable parts, you know. And yeah, we out here, you know, just wow, bless.
and it's a catalyst. You know, pain can be a catalyst to the next stage of our evolution, and it sounds like it was that for you completely.
Yeah.
So, speaking of surrender and surrender to listening, I'm wondering if you might want to take us through a little process around conscious communication and listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is yeah, there's not many things in life I enjoy more than sharing these tools. You know, because I know the efficacy. You know, they work. They just work. You know, it's nice to find something that works. You know, and yeah, you know, before.
I'm gonna put you up just to talk for a moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, so what I specialize in is specifically, it's not nonviolent communication, but it's conscious communication. So some people go, well, what is that? What does that entail? Right. And, well, first off, I like to define my perspective in relation to communication. What is communication? And when I first came across this word, I broke the word down and see the three parts. And you have communication. And come, the prefix come means with or together, where uni means one or oneness, and then cation infers there's some kind of process. So you put it back together and you have the process of coming together as one. Right? And so yeah, this was like a huge realization for me. Like, and it made me realize everything is some form of communication, right? Some form of coming together as one. Um, you know, mind and body right now, there's a communication happening. If that communication is thrown off, there's going to be more dissonance and not as, you know, much of a synergy between mind and body, right? There's a communication between our minds and our bank, right? Like what is the communication like there to that's resulting in a particular number showing up in that bank account, right? And so I began to examine communication, and then when you throw conscious in front of it, conscious just means aware, right? Or present, or awake to something. So the art of conscious communication is being aware of the way in which I'm communing with life. And if I'm unconscious in my communication, well, that means I'm going to be arriving at places in oneness because we're always communicating. That means I'm going to be arriving at places, in oneness that maybe I didn't intend to arrive. So, if I'm in a relationship and there's a lot of unconscious communication, meaning, uh, it's hard for me just to stay awake and aware in challenging situations, and I go off in my head, or I start thinking of stories or interpretations, and now I'm unconsciously leaking those out in my communication. It may lead to being with my partner and arriving at a place, oneness in frustration, right? And or we may arrive at a place of oneness in separation, ironically. Have you ever like felt one with your partner in the experience of feeling disconnected? And so the what I found to be the biggest bridge for, you know communication isn't what I say. It's not me saying the right things to whoever it is I'm talking to, but it's the quality of my listening. And I found that to be, uh, foundational to, is this relationship going to thrive or not? And so with one of you, if you'd be open to it, I'd love to demonstrate some unconscious communication, um, and create some contrast for what conscious communication can look like. And maybe if one of you would like to share a goal in your world, maybe a goal that you have and a challenge around the goal, and I'll respond how I respond.
Sure. I would love to. Yeah, let's do this. So, I think for me, I'm in great service. I have a full container, full with clients, full with a group program, and I'm wanting to grow past that, right? But then there's the
You want to grow. You want to grow
time
past
challenge.
I mean, isn't that the dream though? Like
Me,
having as many, clients, having a full
it,
container. I mean, what
it,
more do
it
you
is.
need?
I'm wanting to actually create more of a team, and learn to balance. I mean, I'm doing it. This is the thing, I'm doing it, but
Mhm.
there's a place of expansion still being there's an invitation of expansion here still, you know?
Yeah, same in my business. I could really use a team right now. It's just been me and another friend, and yeah, it's hard. It's hard doing it just yourself, and yeah, you
So
need a team to take it to another level.
I'm really been in a surrendered state, asking spirit to like open to receiving the next level of. So I've been doing the inner work, I'm because I know that the inner creates the outer, right? So it's like, okay, I'm just being with that conversation inside so that the opening
Yeah.
can occur.
Yeah, I can tell you're doing the work because you're glowing. You got that glow going, and
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 I'm also in
it's
acceptance and content with what is. It's not that it's wrong or bad. It's not. It's great. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not seeing it through the eyes of this is wrong or bad and it needs to change, because it doesn't. I am so grateful and so
and
grateful. Do you know what I mean?
is most of your work that you do, is it like online, or you do with people in person, or
It's all online.
huh? Wow, so you get to reach people from all over the place.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I have clients from in the East Coast, I have clients all over, and this year I launched and created a program, a group program. So it was my first time. I'm closing the container soon. I have a few more weeks left, and to wrap that one journey up, which is so exciting and so juicy and amazing. And the women are getting powerful transformation. I mean, the transformation going on is really mind blowing. Like, that is
Mhm.
the thing, and so I'm so excited because I'm launching again. I'm doing a 4-day Sovereign Queen activation coming up August 15th through the 18th, and so that is coming.
And so do you make a lot of videos that that speaks to people, or like how do you like
That's the
yeah,
thing,
make those
it's like, where
connections?
do I find the time to do all the extra things? That's the place where I have been struggling is because I'm full in my container of what I'm doing to find the time to actually give more time to, like, those things. It's plus I'm married and I have an 11-year-old as well.
Mm.
So it's full plate.
Oh well, I have full faith you got it. You what you've done thus far has been beautiful. So yeah, it's all gonna unfold perfectly.
Yeah, it is unfolding perfectly.
Yeah. All right,
In
cool. We'll pause
divine
there.
order and
We'll pause. What'd you say?
I said in divine order and timing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
beautiful. Cool. Thank you. Thank you for demonstrating with me. And yeah, I'll ask you. So, like in relation to my responses to you and how we were communicating, like what'd that feel like to you?
It felt good. It felt centered for me. I felt like I was communicating from a place of clarity and
Mm,
honoring my experience simultaneously, and
mm,
really being conscious of my language around how I spoke about it so that it was honoring my experience and welcoming more. Like,
mm,
it was really important to speak from a place of gratitude for what I have
mm,
and to experience the growth edge and knowing that it is growing and evolving and that I am expanding
mm, mm,
how I serve.
uh-huh. So it was like very just a kind of a present experience for you, present to what was wanting to come up for you, and you have the yeah, you were guiding it out in a way that just felt clean for you,
Yes.
and whilst at the same time being open to being in dialogue with me and uh
Mhm.
and yeah. And so yeah, I experienced you as definitely in a conscious communicative space. However, me, I wasn't necessarily I'm not going to say this is, the wrong way to communicate or bad or any way, but I was uh, doing something called road blocking, right? And so what road blocking is their reactions or responses to the expression of another that can, in a way, stifle full expansion of what you're expressing. It can keep you from going deeper and further with what's alive for you. And so you may have noticed when you were sharing a bit about your challenges, one of the things or a desire you had was to build a team, right? To expand your team. And my response immediately was going, "Oh yeah, same here. Man, it's just me and my friend right now, and it's hard. It's hard for me to
I
build a
did
team,
notice.
to right. And whilst that's like not that's pretty normal actually in day to day conversation. However, I left your world and went into my world,
Mhm.
and that took a bit of the momentum away from the train of thought that you were on,
Mhm.
right? And there was other moments where you presented like, oh, this is somewhat of a challenge here, and it's still like emerging, and you're still digesting. And rather than being with you in that, I started praising you. I was like, oh well, you're glowing, and and what you've done this far, and the inner work you've done. Oh, you got it, right? And while my intentions may be good there, and uh, it may be like amazing to hear. You're like, thank you for that reflection. it can still, once again, like roadblocks stifle the
Mhm.
depth of where we go,
Mhm.
right? And so this
Great,
is something that say it again.
great example.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. And so these are, when I first learned this, it was like taking a red pill of like taking the red pill in communication, because I was roadblocking everybody. You can, and this is something I expand on with my clients and really like dive deep into. But you can roadblock with praise, you can roadblock with questions and almost
Mm.
like interviewing people. You can roadblock with like relating and storytelling, or there's so many different ways, opinions or judgments or warnings. These can all be things that take the individual who's expressing out of connection with what they're expressing, and now they're holding space for you.
Mhm.
Right.
I did notice that I had to be hyper aware of the way I was communicating through our experience. I was really conscious of staying very connected to, and that's because I'm a good communicator, right? For
Right.
someone that
Right.
maybe doesn't have as much communication like experience, it would be a roadblock, but it didn't allow it inside myself as a roadblock because I was very, very conscious of directing
Mhm.
what I was saying in the moment.
Absolutely. I noticed that too. I noticed normally when I do this demonstration, it's easier to get someone derailed, and, and you know, but with you, I noticed that. I noticed you were just staying present like and continuing your train of thought, regardless of me not being fully present with your train of thought. Uh-huh.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
Um, now that I'm seeing this, um, I'd love to talk like just can you give some examples of how this shows up? So I'm going to ask a question in this is so the other day I was in a class and I hear this happen all the time with people with like deep healing classes. It's like, oh my gosh, I think you're great. Like the person will share something, a deep insecurity or a challenge that they're going through, and it'll be like a
Hmm.
bypass. Oh, you're doing great. Like this
Yeah.
encouraging, empowering moment. Like, oh, you're doing
Hmm.
great. You're a beautiful person. You're gonna da da da. And I was like,
Yeah.
my thought, because I'm not afraid of the shadow or the dark. I'm like, is
Right.
that actually helpful? Like that was my thought. I was like, is this
Right.
person actually
Right.
moves through the? And I ended up asking them a question. I was like, "Can I actually ask a question that's not like gonna praise you or pat you, but can I ask you what is under that?"
Beautiful.
Hmm.
And the person looked at me like, "Wow, that was such a great question." And I was like,
Mm.
because I didn't want to. And okay, so here's the question. The question is sometimes or when people derail, or what did you call it? It was called roadblocking. When people are
Hmm.
roadblocking, is that more about their own discomfort with the person's discomfort?
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Bingo.
Yeah,
Ding, ding, ding.
So it is a
yeah,
bypass.
yeah. When I'm roadblocking, it's about me. It's not
Yep.
about the other person. It's either to, and I'll share another version of listening here in a moment that's going to add a little more contrast and depth to this. But yeah, it's when I roadblock, it's about me. I'm
Yep.
I'm reacting to their pain and not wanting to be in it with them. Or maybe I'm just curious. Maybe I'm just like curious about something else. Maybe it sparks a train of thought, something they say, and I'm asking about that, to satisfy my own curiosity, and I could have in that process kind of abandoned the ship,
Mm.
of where they're going, you know, and this isn't, once again, it's not a bad thing. Sometimes that's just an authentic response, but when you're in an emotionally charged situation in your relationships,
Mhm.
that's when roadblocking can exasperate the situation.
Mhm.
You know, a wife comes in like, hey, you keep coming home really late, and I asked you to call me, and you didn't. And husband responds, "Oh, you're just being paranoid," right? Or it's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's fine." You know, that can exasperate the situation and not support the concern or the fear, whatever it is that's coming up for her, and getting processed and
Yeah.
cleared, right? And so if Trish, if you want to do a demonstration with me now,
Sure.
and I'll invite you to do the same prompt. Just what's a goal in your world that you have, and maybe a challenge revolving around it, and I'll respond consciously this time.
Okay. Like, how far out do you want this goal? I have a lot of them right now.
Whatever feels most alive. Whatever feels most alive.
Okay. My goal is to relaunch so I'm relaunching everything and pulling it all together right now in the next 2 weeks. Like, that's my website. That is this work that I'm doing in the world, like everything that I didn't know what I was really wanting to do, but now I'm and I want to relaunch before I start school.
Yeah.
And challenges
Getting clear.
Challenges are some of the challenges that presented themselves before was finding the right copywriter and the right branding manager. People, like, I looked for 9 months to find someone who was aligned with my values. Luckily I found the right people. It just takes, my time frame or the things that I want. I often surrender to those moments of like, okay, this is how the universe wants to unfold. There's many people involved here. So I'm not, that's not really a challenge. And it's just a leaning back into the great big back support. The challenges for me right now look like my attention span. One of the challenges is that I lost my medication that helps me focus, and I have no idea where it is, which means that I'm extra squirrely. So and that it's like it's so challenging.
Yeah. You have to like practice patience with yourself.
Yeah. I'm extra. Yeah. I'm like, okay. There's a lot of, I'm like, how did I get there? How did I go from doing this one thing and then all of a sudden I'm who knows what it is that I'm doing? And I was like, is this necessary? Can we go back here? And that is one of the things that I'm a little challenged by. And the other piece is reminding my brain to not play the negative game, because of the life that I've lived, it automatically goes into the like, and I'm like, I love you and I see where what you want, and you're afraid, and I don't think this is actually helpful and necessary or even true. And so there's because of the attention span thing, it's coming in more often because I'm not as focused. That I'm.
Yeah. It's like when you're in that state where your mind is a little more squirrely, you can see this like gravitational pull almost towards worry and like kind of wanting to go in that negative direction. But I get you're like in this meditation, this practice of calling it back in to your center and staying like graceful and focused. Like it's a deeper focus practice for you, with your mind right now, and optimism.
Well, it's not. I wouldn't call it optimistic. Because I'm never I love to be with what comes up. So even even if it's real like upset or fear, or I'm constantly leaning into that, like, ooh, there's frustration. That's what it looks like. I like lean into that. It's more I don't know. There's a difference between the programmed fear around money and time and commitment, around investment in self. Like there's some program, like social program there,
Mm-hmm.
and some poverty stuff in my early childhood.
Mm-hmm.
That's like it's like an inkling thing right back here
Mm-hmm.
that I know isn't helpful. Like it actually doesn't help me go anywhere. It's more like I can hold this like underlying program and consciously say, okay, has that helped in the past? Is that actually where I want to be in the world? Can I hold the discomfort, which lives here, like the pillar of my solar plexus to about right here, and it kind of feels like a like a rug burn kind of feeling, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, can I breathe into it and be with the what is conscious, what I know it to be correct? Like I can hold that discomfort and know that I can get lost in that, get caught up in it, get hijacked by this old program, or I have the opportunity to be with that, hold that, and know that there's these things that I continue to do. So it's like choosing where my attention is going without being optimistic. Like I don't need that. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna feel the discomfort. And is it helpful? Is it working my process forward? And is it moving things forward? Do I need to sit with that some more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get you as in curiosity, you maintain the curiosity, and yeah, there's this attraction that you have towards what's going to support you in growing, and so you stay open to what's present for you, even despite it being, like, oh, is this programs, or is this something I inherited? There's like curiosity around it, and you're willing to just be with it and digest it and use it and take it forward with you if it's supportive, and or leave it behind and let go of it if it's not. So you're practicing being in that at that choice point, and remembering, like, that's where I live. I live in the choice point, as opposed to being like a trash bag in the wind, just swept up with from the feelings and thoughts.
Yes. Thank you.
Cool. Well, let's pause there. Yeah. So thank you for sharing your world with us here. Yeah. So what'd you notice about my communication, in either one of you? What'd you notice about the way in which I was communicating with you, Trish, this time?
There was a lot of reflection. Like your body language was leaning in. I could sense. I saw you. You were attentive. The way that your head was moving meant that you were really like listening and curious. I could also see, see the inner process of you reflecting on what my experience was. You were listening from my seat rather than your seat looking in. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And what internal experience did you have in, like, being reflected?
Oh, I was like, oh, this person's here with me. I was like, oh yeah. Like I felt I'm gonna use this word safety, but I'm gonna explain the somatic experience around that for me, and which is like I could feel some opening
Mm,
in
mhm,
here. I felt like a little opening, and I also felt that the pillar of that kind of relax.
mm,
Um,
mhm,
what I meant by that for the people who are listening is that I was using both of my hands, sort of like a rug burn, to like a burn where you're creating friction,
mhm,
and that's what I was using before. And so when I was saying that that part is relaxing, it's like slowing down. There's not as much heat or as much friction, that I felt like
Mhm.
you were there with me, rather than
Mhm.
me explaining like my solo reality on my own.
Mhm.
You were actually, again, like stepping into my
Yeah.
space with me.
Mhm.
Like I had a journeyer
Mhm.
with me.
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't alone in your experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, here is like, yeah, you felt heard, simply put, like heard, received, seen, felt, uh, supported in experiencing your experience. Right. And so, the skill that I displayed there is a skill called empathic reflective listening.
Mhm.
And so what this skill revolves around, the basis of this skill is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Bingo.
And people don't care what you know. They don't care how much you know until they know you care. Right. And so how do we display the like that we care? By listening,
Mhm.
right? And hearing another. And how do they know that we're with them and we hear them? Well, first off, yeah, body language. You see I'm leaning in, you see I'm making eye contact, and I'm present with you. And then also I repeat back to you what I felt and heard from you, right? And this isn't like roadblocking where I leave your world to go into my world and share what I think about your world. I didn't share anything that I thought about her world, right? What I shared was when I spoke purely on what I perceived and felt her to be experiencing,
Mhm.
right? And what was taking place in her world. And what this does, there's so many different incredible benefits to doing this, especially in closer relationships. But one, it just creates depth, right? Like you said, you felt an opening kind of happening in your heart space, right? Where it's like, I'm safe. I can let more of me out here because he's not giving me advice. He's not telling me what I need to do or shouldn't do. He's not like concerned with himself and telling stories about his life. It's like, no, there's space for me here,
Or
right?
trying to
And
fix it.
what do you say?
I said, or trying to fix it.
Right, right. I'm not sending a message like, oh, we need to fix this. Like, no, it's like your experience is perfect.
Exactly.
There you go. Right, and it's valid. And
Mhm.
so this is a game changer in relationships, especially when there's charge, because first off, just in being heard, it's like sometimes when there's, yeah, intense turmoil in a relationship. One of you said something earlier about everything is uh an expression of a need, right? And another phrase I have is everything's either an act of love or crying out for love, right? And so when there's emotionally charged situation and it's intense, just simply reflecting back what you hear, and it can be as simple as, yeah, I get you're pissed right now. Yeah, I get you're feeling sad. You feel hurt by what I did.
Mhm.
It can be just that simple, right? And the part of them that's seeking, like, oh, I'm crying out for love, will get nourished and just being heard,
Mhm.
right? It's like being heard is like life air
Mhm.
to many people. A lot of people. I work with people that have never experienced being heard the way that I've heard them in our conversations, and it's like life air. And they're like, I can breathe, right? And it diffuses the emotion that's present. Like you said, the opening, you felt that clenching kind of in the chest area, kind of just dissipate a bit. It's like being heard. It diffuses energy like no other, right? Um, and then also, yeah, just depth. It supports like a train of thought and going deeper and deeper and deeper, and you really get to know somebody, and you get to know yourself in like seeing their reflection self-realized through this, right?
Yes.
So
There's a big space around validating someone's experience. I don't know, many of us don't have this validation. Like we're taught like, oh, you used this term dissonance before, that, you know, oh, I like this thing that society tells me that I'm not supposed to like, or God knows, it could be just a lot of different like conflicting beliefs and thoughts and feelings. And to have someone validate your experience, like, oh, you're really pissed right now. I see your body shaking. And to have them actually like not try to be like, oh, but you're gonna be great. It's good. You just breathe through it or whatever, you know,
Right.
just to have someone validate, like, yeah, I see the pillar, I can hear it, is so profound.
Mm.
To be with someone's discomfort, just to be with them there, like, hey,
Yeah.
without needing it to shift. Oh, I love this tool,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's speaking of self-love, what is self-love besides just like having that coherence with self, right? It's like, oh, I'm experiencing anger right now. Okay. I'm going to allow myself to be with anger. I'm going to validate my own anger by just allowing myself to experience it. Well, people that don't have that quite in place yet, when they're heard in this way, and they're not experiencing me do what they're doing to themselves, but they're experiencing me like, yeah, you're angry right now. Some of them go, well, I'm not angry. And it's like, oh yeah, you're not, and they're like, actually, yeah, I am angry, right? Because and they soften into it, and then energy moving, right? And they're able to circulate and be more embodied just from being heard. Right? And one thing I wanted to point out too is, one of the reflections I gave you, Trish. It sounds like it wasn't accurate. One of the reflections, like, you're like, oh, I said optimism, and you're like, no, it's not like optimism. And then you went into this realm of like really getting more precise on what it is you're experiencing. And so it's like, for those of you listening to this tool, when you start applying and practicing this, you don't have to do a perfect reflection. You can reflect wrong. That's awesome, because then they're going to go, no, it's not that. And then they can like get even more refined. And I've had some of my clients have the coolest breakthroughs after I give them a reflection that was inaccurate. Because then they're like, well, no, it wasn't this, it was, and they're like, actually, it's this. And they just realized, they just self-realized in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise, right? And so, yeah, and like I said, I do a lot of work around this, and so this is like a really small crash course on this tool. But if anyone listening is interested in expanding upon this, feel free to reach out to me, because I think and this is great for coaches, or just, yeah, if there's turmoil in relationships, the biggest gift we can give each other is self-realization. And there's, in my opinion, there's no better way to support someone in their own self-realization by, in fact, I'm gonna withhold my advice for a moment and just listen to you and allow your own inner wisdom and advice to come up, and you can see yourself and feel yourself and hear yourself. And so, yeah.
And if you're wanting to learn more about Gordon, you can go to YouTube and type in his name, Gordon Xavier, GordonXavier. You can also go to his website at www.evolvethroughlove.org, or schedule your session at calendly.com/Gordon Xavier, and you can schedule there. Thank you so much for your time, your love, your attention, listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
You can't spell evolve without love.
Yes, and your devotion to communication is beautiful. I really want to praise and acknowledge you there. It's really, really great work you're doing in the world. Very, very important. Bettering everyone's life because of deeper communication. Who doesn't need that, right? Like,
yeah.
woo, yes.
I take as much of it as I can get.
Yeah. I can see how much you've poured yourself into this learning, deep learning, and it's beautiful. and may you just exponentially shift many, many people's lives because of it. I'm very proud of you in that way. It's great. I celebrate you.
Thank you for your celebration.
Yeah.
Lots of time and love and presence going into the cultivation of communication and sharing it. And so, I appreciate it. If follow me, check out the YouTube channel. I'm gonna be posting for the first time in a couple of months tomorrow. Since right long I took some time off, and I'm actually gonna be posting about the story of that tomorrow. So check it out, and some other realizations revolving around pain, and if anyone would like to, I offer something called reflection sessions, and it's a sliding scale of $0 to $100. So it's the initial one is a sliding scale from $0 to $100, and it's receiving the gift of reflective listening. Maybe there's an area in life where there's a lot of anxiety and dissonance or lack of clarity, and through just reflective conversation, we ground and create clarity and coherence with that area of life. So would love to connect, and I'm so grateful to you, beautiful souls, for holding this space and showing up every week for your community, so people can get tapped tapped into themselves and clear and fill up the well, to where it's not just a well where you're digging up to give it out, but it's a fountain now, overflowing. And so keep on filling folks up. I feel filled up in y'all presence.
This is how it started, is that, a free resource for people who can't afford therapy or coaching.
Yeah.
That they can actively choose and keep walking for their journey towards, access is really important in the world, especially when there's so much financial, there's just difference. So anyone in the world can get on the YouTube or the Apple podcast or Spotify. And this is our volunteer project. This is a lot of money and time goes into making sure that people have access no matter where you are or what you're doing, or if you can afford it or not. Like this is the piece that drives this show.
Saying
it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your generosity.
Oh.
It's what drives us. It's one of the things that Dawn and I talk about a lot, is like how it feels like a pillar of like whatever we're doing in the world. Thursday mornings are going to show up, and it's just
for sure.
And then it's like what are the
like a heartbeat?
Well, yeah, like a heartbeat, or like when the pillars that hold buildings up. It's kind of like that. It's like these moments where we drop in no matter what's happening in our lives. I'd love to hear a little bit about what Dawn's bringing in.
Aw, thanks, babe. Well, it's exciting. Come join me August 15th through the 18th. If you're a beautiful woman that is seeking to deeply upgrade your relationship, right? Because it's like really learning to look at the lens of how you see yourself in your relationship. And, if you've been experiencing any type of issues, if you've been in a long-term committed relationship, or if you have a long-term standing pattern with being in relationship, but experiencing the same patterning, right? And you're ready to bust through that altogether and dissolve it for good so that you can have the relationship you really truly know you deserve and are worthy of. If you're ready to experience this and experience more of yourself, more of what you truly want in relationship and this deeper exploration, I'm hosting a 4-day free Sovereign Queen Challenge. And it's really an opportunity to explore the core reason why patterns show up in relationships altogether. So I'm going to be teaching on this. I'm going to be giving away prizes. I'm going to be doing spiritual activations daily. And it's just a really deep opportunity to explore how you are in relationship with self and with your beloved. And even if you're not in relationship, but you're longing to be in partnership, this too is a place where healing can take place. And I will open the doors. I'll talk about my program and then open another launch of my program, which is evolving. It was a 9-week program. Now it's a 6-month program. So it's very exciting. It's called Unleash Your Sovereign Queen. And so the 4-day activation is an opportunity to experience me and experience some healing and get a lot of juicy goodness out of it. And the women that participated last time said that it was a profound experience. They have so much learning, and every day is jam packed with good information and a great takeaway, plus amazing gifts. And I'm going to give away 1 spot to my program for free. So please come and join and participate, because it's a great celebration of my life's work poured into this gorgeous container, and all the learning of being married 20 years, right? This year will be that amount of time for us together. And healing really deep child abuse patterning and rejection pattern with my father. So it's a deep interwoven of how to lay down intergenerational trauma patterns for good. And even if you haven't been in really traumatic experiences, there's still such a way to really work with your personal spiritual curriculum, no matter what it is. Like, these are real tools and skills I will share, because it's all embodied graduate studies work that's all woven in. So deep spiritual psychology woven in with my own personal life learning and journey. And here you are experiencing the Sovereign Queen challenge and activation. So we would love to have you. It's a deep, heartfelt journey. It took me 6 years to birth this, and here I am. So I'm so happy to be in service, and I'm so, so grateful to Spirit for all this time, devotion, and energy that has taken me to arrive here. And I'm just beginning. So it's so exciting. So please, please, please come join and get the activations.
I have added that link down below. You should be able to get that. And Dawn, I'm taking Dawn's course. It's amazing. It is a lot of deep, intense work, and you get a lot out of it. The women are growing like phenomenally. It's amazing. People are just like, oh, wow. They had so much spaciousness created last night, even, that I was like, wow. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Dawn. I adore you both so much.
I adore you too.
Thank you for your time and your energy and the years of study and work on yourself, because this is how you get to show up. And thank you for continuing to do your work on yourself, because that is just how it works in the world. I'd love to say thank you to Sign Network for running us out on 60 different pages today, as well as Scott Katamas, Love Coach Academy, and the Global Peace Tribe for just showing up. Thank you all for watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and now listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all the places that you get your podcasts, soon to be a radio station. So thank you so much. And we will see you next week, Thursday morning, 10 a.m.